It's Mr. G, week 5 methods. I'm posting late. As you may well know, life has been a big jumble of craziness for me the last few weeks. So, getting wife moved down here from Virginia. My daughter moved into SCAD in Savannah, and wife is here this week. So you know how that goes. We're going through stuff, trying to figure out what we're going to move from this house to another house and stuff we're going to throw away. And so I apologize. You are suffering from my suffering these next 2 weeks. So we're in week 5. If you've already watched the videos, you know this week's theme is DNA. DNA, exactly. I can tell you, I remember being a young criminal investigator and going to classes and being taught that once you get DNA, your investigation's over, stop. You've got everything you need. There's no need to go further, because if you get anything beyond that DNA, it may conflict with the DNA and actually mess up your case. So once you get DNA in a case, stop. That was the original thinkings on DNA way back ago when Moses was still on the earth and we were parting the Red Sea and stuff like that. I'm not quite that old, but I was around when we first really started using DNA as evidence. And that was it. They thought if you have DNA, it's solid. There's nothing better than DNA. DNA is the golden ticket to 100%. Well, hopefully, since I'm posting this late, I'm posting this on Friday, before I take my family to the circus. Woohoo! Whoop, 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 whoop. Anyway, I got to go to the circus this afternoon, and then we got to go to a high school football game in Early County with my wife, and my life is crazy right now. Anyway, all right, let's go back. Let's get back to methods. DNA used to be the golden ticket. And you've watched my videos by now because it's Friday. You've had most of the week to watch them. And you're seeing there's things like chimerism and all these strange DNA things where you have white couples having black babies and black couples having white babies, white. It's confusing. We got all this stuff going on. If you watch the video, you know DNA is not as solid as we used to think it was. So that's one of the reasons why I put these videos on here. You've got some that's really down into CSI and how CSI works. But the other videos are really showing you what the anomalies in DNA can be and what the differences are. And let's talk about chimerism for a second. Are you familiar with what chimerism is? Chimerism is this rare anomaly where you have a singular person who in the womb was a twin, and during development, instead of there being 2 people at the end of the pregnancy, the primary twin absorbs the secondary twin. Okay, so we are really sounding like science fiction now. What happens is in the womb, one twin actually absorbs the body mass of the other twin into its body, so that in a normal looking standard person, you actually have the DNA sets of that person and their twin. Ooh, did that just throw you off? That drive you crazy? Are you like really freaking out now? Yes. So, if you looked into the story about the woman who gave birth to her children, yet they weren't a DNA match. Did you watch that video? Did you see it? The story is a lady had given birth to, I think, 2 children, and something medically happened, and they found out that the child that was sick did not have a DNA match to the mother. And then they checked the other child, it didn't have a DNA match for the mother. And they'd been receiving like some state benefits and all these kind of things. And so they began being investigated for benefits fraud, plus trying to figure out, okay, if they're not your kids, whose kids are they? Who do they belong to? And the kids were actually removed from the household for, I think, 2 years, or maybe even 3 years. And what wound up happening is she became pregnant again. So, and the whole time, everybody's adamant. I mean, she's got pictures of herself holding these babies when they were born, but they weren't DNA matches, okay? So the state said, they're not DNA matches, they can't be yours. Something's going on, something's hookies. So what wound up happening is she became pregnant again. And the judge ordered that a state representative, a representative of the state, medical type person, be there and collect a sample. You know how when you're born they'll cut the umbilical cord and save a piece and all that? Well, this person was there and was there to forensically take samples at birth to view the birth, so they could testify they viewed the birth. They saw her give birth to this child. And guess what? When the state was done doing that with this last child, again, wasn't a DNA match. But this time the state had somebody there that could witness and say, we saw it, we forensically collected samples, we managed all the tests, we know there's no mistakes. This child came from that female. And what wound up happening is she has chimerium. So in the womb, she absorbed the tissue of her twin, and her uterus, it's going to get really crazy, her uterus contains the DNA of her unborn twin. Therefore, any child she gives birth to, since it develops in the uterus, is going to contain the DNA set for the mother's unborn twin. Guys, blow your mind. Is that just really crazy? Yeah, it is. It's really, really, really crazy. How in the world can it do that? Because DNA is supposed to be exact. It's supposed to be non-fallible and all that. Well, it is. But what we're finding out is as we study DNA, there's a lot of things that are happening that still make DNA exact. It's just we had no idea that these things occurred until we started really studying DNA and could track DNA. Now, we also saw the samples of where you have black couples giving birth to white babies and white couples giving birth to black babies. And you can say, how in the world can that happen? What's going on there? Well, that one's really simple to explain. It's easy. Primarily because, if we're in America, first of all, if you've taken my classes, my in-classroom classes, I can tell you from my time being in Africa and all that, people in Africa will look at the people in the United States and say, you are not black. Really. One of my best friends is from Gambia, West Africa, and his name is Santa, and Santa is black. I mean, Santa is very, very, very black. And he will look at black Americans and say, you are not black. And the reason is because we're intermixed. And you could say you're pure white, but odds are if you do one of those DNA tests, you're going to find out, no, your family tree is not straight. You've got mixtures in there and all that. So where am I getting to when we talk about the possibility of black families giving birth to white babies and white babies giving birth, white families giving birth to black babies? Well, if you look at the DNA little spiral, like how I'm doing the spiral with my fingers. It's a disco. It's a disco. No, imagine the little DNA spiral. Let me get, there we go. DNA spiral. Okay, so you have it in your mind. And on that DNA spiral, if you'll notice, there's all these little letters that are like DNA markers, right? So when you have mommy DNA, daddy DNA, and it's going to be the little spiral, and it's going to have those little markers on there. And mommy DNA, daddy DNA get together and say, we're going to make a baby. Well, what's going to happen is that DNA is going to look at the markers, and it's going to say, okay, I need to take building blocks from each of these little spirals to build this singular human out of these two strands of DNA. Well, if it's white daddy, white mommy, but yet in their spirals, the DNA sees a gene for black mom or black daddy, black mommy, it may pick that because it's in your DNA. It's not you. It may be several generations back, but if daddy has it and mommy has it, and this DNA, when it's putting its puzzle together to make the singular human, sees that both parents have it, it may grab it and say, okay, well, y'all have both this. I'm going to grab it because it both matches, and we're going to make a baby. And the baby may come out a different race because mommy and daddy's DNA both contained it. Does that make sense? So what it does is we're making new people. These two DNA strands will look and see what's similar and grab those to make a new DNA strand for this new person. And that's what happens there. So again, is DNA exact? Yeah, the science that's going on is exact. But again, it's doing some really hooky things that we just may not understand fully. And why is that important when we go to do criminal investigations? You know, it's like I try to tell y'all time and time again, you know, when you go in and you do any investigation, you're not looking for confessions, you're not looking for this and that, you're looking for the truth. So it's important that when we go into an investigation and we're seeing things, that we really look broad-based and open-minded, and we're looking at every pieces of the puzzle. And you know, when we get somewhere where we're stumped, where we're thinking, this just really doesn't look like right, and this may be beyond my understanding, you need to call other people in and say, hey, look at this and tell me, what are other options? You know, this sounds like it could be right, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. How do we make this puzzle come together? And DNA is one of those deals where, you know, a majority of the time, if you have DNA, you can go back and nail DNA on a person. But, you know, there's been cases where people have been have had chimerism, and you may get DNA sample from the right arm, and then the DNA sample from the left arm is totally different. So you can't, just because you think you have the right thing, if the whole puzzle isn't right, then you need to keep looking. And what I'm getting to is, you know, don't stop at just DNA. And that was the way I was, like I started off with, that's the way I was trained. If you have DNA, stop, because anything you may get may conflict with DNA. And I believed that when I was young. But then as I got older, I started working cases, I'm thinking, well, if I have DNA, but yet I'm getting this other evidence that conflicts with the DNA results, then that should be telling me that my puzzle's not right. Something's wrong, and I need to keep searching. So DNA, just like anything else, like we've learned, even confessions aren't where you stop, because you need to support that one dot in your whole, that one piece of your whole evidence puzzle. You need to support that with a bunch of other pieces to make a complete picture. So remember that when you're working on DNA and you're out there in the field. Don't just stop with DNA. DNA is that one piece of the puzzle, and guess what? It's a really good piece. It's like that really good corner piece that gives you the set for the whole rest of the picture. Okay, DNA can be that. So one corner is DNA, another corner is a confession, you know, another corner is video evidence of the person. So we're putting all these together, but you've got to have a bunch of pieces to put the puzzle together. Don't just stop at DNA. Go back, look at these videos, and it'll show you. Hopefully you're walking away from this week looking at DNA going, dang, that's some crazy mess. Because it is. It's really crazy how DNA works. And it's really interesting, really interesting. I hope you're going to dig into it some more and look at some other like DNA anomalies and things that happen with people, and some of the confusion, because there's really some amazing stories out there when it comes to DNA. All right, if you have any questions, hit me up. I know these last 2 weeks have been hectic, crazy, me throwing stuff out at random times and things like that, and I greatly apologize. I got sick, and then I got busy, and life just fell upon me, and I know we're all there, right? That's why we're all online educators or students, because we have crazy lives, and we need this system to make things work for us. So if you need anything, let me know. I already got hit up about test. I know people panic about test. I'm not a big test person. I am not a big test person, because for me, I want you to get the information. And I know if I throw it out here, I do mastering, so you're just going to look up answers until you get the right one. But we have to have tests to like gauge, and for everybody to be happy, and the great gods that be to look down and say, he has test scores. So we got to do test. So probably, we're coming up close to midterm anyway. We haven't had a test yet. So probably going to do a test pretty soon. Then we'll do, like maybe next week, expect a test. Don't panic. I will walk you through it. Again, it's going to be mastering, where you have to pass it. You can't officially pass it. Then we're going to have midterm. And then we'll do another test. And then we'll do finals. And then you'll be done with this semester. Okay, sound great? But keep in mind, primarily what I look at when we go to grades are discussion boards. Did you participate in discussion boards? And if I didn't post one for a week, because I think I actually skipped a week, if I didn't post a discussion board, it doesn't impact your grade at all. So discussion boards, your participation in discussion boards are posted. Doing your test or grade assignments when they're posted, and videos, watch the videos and the lectures. Still not getting a lot of participation there, and that will fail you on top of everything else. Not watching videos and not watching lectures will fail you, and you'll come to me and you'll cry, and I'll hug me and I'll say, dear baby child, I love you so much, but you failed and you have to do this class over. Okay? And we don't want that to happen. All right. Get with it. Shoot me any questions. You got phone numbers, you got email addresses, all that kind of stuff. Facebook. A lot of people are hitting me up on Facebook now, so that's cool with me. It's actually the easiest way for me to get up with some people's Facebook. I just hit you up and say, hey, what's up? And then I get to pick on you when you post inappropriate things. Okay. Let me know if you have anything, questions about DNA. DNA's freaky. Go have fun with it. Do some independent investigation. Let me know what's going on. See ya. Out.